Well, good timing, yeah. W4LKS here. Let's get her started. Let's do the Raspberry Pi D-Star Net. It happens right here at this very time of the week, each and every week. That is to say, 7 p.m. Pacific time, reflector 38 Charlie. And this is the net where we talk about the use of the Raspberry Pi computer and D-Star in your amateur radio hobby. So, yeah, that includes other variants of the single board computers that are similar to the Raspberry Pi. The Banana Pi, the Orange Pi, all the other ones, including also the Arduino, I guess. Although it's not really in the same class. Arduino, of course, is a microcontroller. And a Raspberry Pi is a full-blown Linux computer. It runs Linux operating system. So let's get started. Before we get rolling, is there anybody who wants to unlink? I'll leave it quiet for a second or two here if you want to get out of here. So what we usually do is we start off with news and announcements about Raspberry Pi and D-Star. And then we go into a question and answer period where there's some Elmering going on. So stand by for that. That'll be the second part. And then if we run out of time there, well, we usually end up having just a friendly check-in session as well towards the end when we run out of questions usually. We'll try to leave the most room for the questions and answers. And so with that, let's get started. Let's see if anybody has any Raspberry Pi news for us or announcements. Okay, didn't see anything there. I forgot to mention, I am your substitute net control host tonight for usually WA7VFQ. Jim would be doing the third Monday of the month, but he's traveling, visiting his family in Japan. So maybe he's listening. He's probably, although it's tomorrow already in Japan, they probably forgot about Monday already. Let's see, I found a little bit of Raspberry Pi news today. It looks like in the last couple of weeks we've been talking about the Raspberry Pi Zero W, which is the smaller version of the Raspberry Pi. Doesn't have as much memory, but the Zero W does have onboard Wi-Fi. And there's now a D-Star Commander image that Bob, W6KD, has thankfully given us that works well on the Raspberry Pi Zero W. It has the drivers for the wireless on it. So if you have a DV Mega, you could use the Raspberry Pi Zero W. No, sorry, not the DV Mega, the DVAP. His version for the DV Mega doesn't work. His version only works for the DVAP. Anyway, you could use D-Star Commander version 2.02 with a Raspberry Pi Zero W. And I'll tell you some more. The reason I'm telling you about that is that I found that you can now buy them for $10 at Adafruit. They have them in stock. I checked today. You don't have to buy the bundle with all the other junk that you don't really need, although, like we said before, it has such unusual connectors on it, you might as well buy the package that has the connectors that you need to use, like the on-the-go cable, so you can connect to USB stuff, and mini HDMI to HDMI cables, so you can actually plug it into a monitor and get it configured and all that stuff. Anyway, if you want to buy one for $10, you can get it at Adafruit. Now, or also, if you're near a city that has a Micro Center store, you can go in and buy them there in the Micro Center store. They won't sell them online, but you can go in and buy them. Funny thing about that is that it's $10 for the first one at Micro Center. If you buy two of them, they're $15 a piece. If you buy six of them, they're $20 a piece. So they have unusual pricing to discourage you from buying more than one or more than six if you go into the store. Kind of weird. Any other Raspberry Pi or D-Star news or comments about what I said there? Come on ahead.
November 0, Whiskey India, Quebec. My name is Carrie. I live in Loving, Colorado, and I use a Raspberry Pi 3B and a DV Mega board as a hotspot in my home. So I'm also using an ID5100 in my phone.
N0WIQ. Very good. You got that. Raspberry Pi 3 and DV Mega in your home, and it's working real good for you. Let's see. Maybe if I could ask you to say your name again, because I was busy writing down other stuff and I forgot your name. And what kind of radio do you use to get into your DV Mega, if you wouldn't mind? Come on back.
Okay, well, the name is Carrie. I spell Kilo Echo Romeo Romeo Yankee. The radio is a Nikon ID5100 with a Bluetooth interface so that I can use a wireless headpiece to use it with Unvox.
Okay, ICOM 5100 using a Bluetooth headset. Yeah, well, it's doing real good, so very cool. Well, thanks for coming around and telling us about your setup, and appreciate your check-in. I got you down on the list, number one. So thanks, Carrie. Appreciate you stopping by. Let's see if there's anybody else who has anything to add in the way of news, announcements, or comments about the Raspberry Pi Zero W or anything else like that. Come on ahead.
KC8YQL and W6CJX.
Okay, got Bill KC8YQL and Bob W6CJX. Stand by, Bob. Let's go to Bill first. KC8YQL. Hi, Bill. Go right ahead.
Hey, good evening again, Randy, and thank you so much for hosting the PiNet for us tonight. I know Ted Lee's probably got your check already in the mail. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating a little. Anyway, I'm a little hesitant to talk about what I was going to mention because Bob's up there behind me, so I hope I'm not going to take any away from Bob, but maybe he's got something different to talk about, but I'm not sure. At any rate, I shared some emails with KI6ZUM, that's Jim from the California Papa system, and he said he's going to be sending me a beta Zoom Spot board. He's got a brand new and improved version of the 721 board that he's calling the Zoom Spot. And I believe it does auto selection. Whatever hits the front end, it will automatically switch over. I believe 4 digital modes. I don't think it's implemented on NextEdge or ICOM as it does yet. had it probably be next. I'd make it 5 digital modes. But at any rate, the Zoom spot board is new and improved, I believe, from the original 721 board that he came out with quite a few years ago. And of course, most of you guys know him of doing the MMDVM board. He's having a guy by the name of Bruce in Canada build those boards out for him. And had a few issues going on with those with the potentiometer, 2 potentiometer pots on board. I believe they originally come out with a single turn pot, and then they come out with a 10 turn, and I guess that made it work a little better, but people still have quite a bit of issues with those, to use those on a repeater environment. I believe the Zoom spot board is basically like a low power hotspot. But more to be continued later on that. I'll let you guys know how things work out once I get a hold of one of his beta products. So we got here, Randy, back to you, sir, KC8YQL. Thanks for letting me pop back in here.
Absolutely. Always cool to hear about things that are coming down. I did a quick Google search for Zoom spot. I got Zip. Zip for the Zoom spot on Google. But, yeah, so he's probably keeping it under wraps so far. Very good. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate that. I'll be looking for that, because that sounds like it might be kind of cool. Go to Bob in Camarillo, W6CJX. Good evening, Bob. Go ahead.
Well, good evening, Randy, and everyone else on the Raspberry Pi Net tonight. You can consider this my check. I won't bother you anymore tonight. Yeah, Bill and I are tag teaming. He just doesn't know it yet. And he did a fine job of talking about the Zoom spot. So, but what I'll do is I'll come around and I'll clean up the rear end part of it. Oh, that doesn't sound good either. Well, okay, I'll clean up the rest of the end. I'll pick up the pieces at the end. How about if I say that? I don't do rear ends since my daughter got out of diapers. Anyway, the Zoom spot is spelled Z-U-M, Z-U-M, and not Z-O-O-M. A lot of people make that mistake. I don't know what you can find if you Google it, but let's say you go to PAPASYS.com, the Papa System webpage, scroll down, and you'll see somewhere to the right of where it says donate or has a PayPal, you can't miss the PayPal logo for paying Papa dues. Anyway, to the right of that is the Zoom, Z-U-M, and there's actually a link, and you click on that link, and it brings up a little presentation that we had, about two or three Thursday nights ago at the Technical Roundtable here on the Papa System 12 Alpha. And you can go there and see a picture of it. You can see a little more details of it. It's not available yet. The prices aren't available yet. But it is such a small package that it's like a stick of gum. I mean, the thing is, like the Raspberry Pi Zero. It's very small. So, anybody that might be interested, just look at it. Go over there to the Papa website, PAPASYS.com. Scroll down about halfway down the page. I don't know if you have to be like a guest or not. I think you can just see it. Click on the link, and then you'll go there to and see a little presentation. It's a PDF file. So anyway, just wanted to throw that in there, and for anybody interested, you never have enough hotspots, that's for sure. Anyway, I'll send it back to you, Randy. Thanks again for doing the net tonight, and I will, and if there's any questions, I will be standing by. But other than that, I'll send it back to Net Control, W6CJX.
Excellent. Got that. Yeah, I went and looked at that. No, you don't have to be a PapaSys member. I'm looking at it right now. And, yeah, there's a cool little PDF presentation. Ooh, it kind of looks like it's, well, yes, it is shaped to match the Raspberry Pi Zero. Very cool. At least it looks like that to the picture. I didn't see where it says it is, but It plugs directly to the Raspberry Pi. You can use it on both the standard and Zero versions. But it looks to be the size of the Raspberry Pi Zero. And wow, that makes it really small. Very cool. Well, thanks, Bob. Thanks, Bill, for that, sharing that. Let's see if there's any other Raspberry Pi news or top secret information that somebody wants to divulge. Come on ahead.
I'll make another quickie there, Randy. I'm sorry, KCYQL.
Go ahead, Bill. Thanks again. Come on back.
Yeah, I just want to let you guys know how cool Jim and his whole family is. Jim's done it numerous times, and he shared a lot of information, kind of behind the scenes thing with me, because I was going to do it with my local schoolhouse and my daughter. And Jim's daughter has yet another International Space Station schedule set up with their local school community. She's going to be system op control and let the school kids talk to the International Space Station. I believe might have been August. Not sure. I have to look at Jim's email. So that's the kind of guy this Jim is. He's not in this to make the big bucks. He charges very, very little for his project boards. And he's a true amateur radio man and just a heck of a nice guy. And his daughter's just like he is. She's taken my check-in twice, I think, on the Last Man Standing production stage studio. And she sent me QSL cards from Tim Allen's, stuff. And just a cool family. So I don't mind patronizing Jim whenever I can to help him out. And the only thing that makes me mad, I don't think he wants to be paying for that board. I don't like that. I mean, if he gives me something that's good, I want to pay him for it. So I don't know how that's all going to work out. But anyway, cool stuff. And let you guys know, I guess Packet is going to start back up on the International Space Station. I got a EWRL news bulletin today that they're going to be on 145. I think it's 8, just a little bit above their 145.8 frequency. I think they're going to be like on 8.25 or something like that, just a little bit above 145.8. So you might be able to hear some Packet stuff from the space station again when it's zooming over top of us. That's enough rambling off for me, Randy. Sorry taking so much time up. I want to hear some good Raspberry Pi questions and answers. KC8YQL, back to now.
Well, that's good information, too. Thank you for that. Appreciate it, Bill. And, yeah, I'm still looking over this little PDF that I downloaded from the Papa system. Yeah. First board will be 70 centimeter, then plans to create 2 meter, 220 and 900 megahertz versions as well. That's cool. And then, of course, the thing everybody wants to know, how much is it going to cost? And he says, don't ask me. And don't ask me about delivery dates. So, it'll be done when it's done. It's been QA and QC checked and beta tested by Bill and everybody else, and then it'll be ready. So, yeah, I mean, it looks just like super cool. Hook it up to Raspberry Pi Zero W, and then you got a teeny tiny little hotspot that does all the various digital modes that you need. Super cool. Yeah, okay, so let's see if there are any other news or announcements that somebody has to talk about. Come on ahead. sounds like it might be about time to go on to the question and answer period. Before we go there, I just wanted to mention that I think I mentioned that I've been running a APRS Digipeater and iGate on a Raspberry Pi. So the way that works is one of our local hams here donated to the project a Kenwood TMD 710. And why would anybody donate that? That's a good radio, right? So he was going on an around-the-world sailing trip, and he basically wanted to make sure we had a good APRS Digipeater here for the Spokane area, so he donated it, and I'm putting it to use. So the software version of the APRS Digipeater and the iGate, I've given up on. It's not working. It's too unreliable. I have to reboot it every couple days, and it's hard to figure out. So I got a different setup for that. I got a little appliance, an APRS Digipeater iGate appliance. It's called the WX 3-in-1 Plus version 2.0. WX 3-in-1 Plus 2.0. Yeah, it's just a little thing that's not much bigger than the Raspberry Pi. It's actually smaller than the radio body is. And it does the whole Digipeater iGate thing and does it all very well. Just arrived today, so I'll be hooking it up. And I think that means that I have a spare Raspberry Pi computer that I can install my favorite version now, as I mentioned before. Instead of Raspbian Jessie, I've been working with Ubuntu Mate, which is a new Raspberry Pi image that gives you, I think, a little easier to use user interface. Be right back. Anyway, so hopefully I'll be able to get to know Ubuntu Mate a little bit more with another spare computer. Well, let's open it up for any questions. So here, a lot of times we talk about how do you get your Raspberry Pi image configured to be a D-Star hotspot. What are the available hardware options, or if it gets stuck getting configured, or how do you update the various hosts for the various reflectors on there? Those are all kinds of things that we talk about a lot. Is there anybody out there that's having some trouble getting their Raspberry Pi D-Star hotspot set up, or any other question for us tonight? Come on ahead.
Good evening, Randy, KD7AAT.
K2ILH.
Zero WIQ.
All right, I got three there. I got KD7AAT. I got K2ILH. It's Bill in New York. And I got N0WIQ. That's Carrie. And he's got something else for us. But stand by, Bill and Carrie. Let's go to John, KD7AAT first. Good evening, John. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Randy, and good evening to everyone on the net tonight. Well, first of all, I just want to say that I had almost forgot about it, and today in the mail, I got my QSL card from the USS Midway down in San Diego, where I made a D-Star contact. They do the 20 meter, the 40 meter, the PSK, and D-Star, and one day they just happened to made a little CQ on 29 Alpha, and there I was, and made the contact, sent them the SASE, and I got my card in the mail today, so that was cool. Plus, I also got 2 admission tickets to the museum, which I am going to. I've already got my reservations, my plans, my motels, and everything set up. I'll be heading down there May the 12th, because on Saturday the 13th, they're having one of their special event stations, and I am going to be in the radio room. And I do have a question about programming a Raspberry Pi, but I think we'll let you bring that back later during the net. But I just wanted to say I was real happy to have gotten that QSL card today. And my trip is to go down there and do it in person and actually see the same guy that sent me the card. So with that said, for now, Randy, thanks for letting me in. And later in the net, I have a question about Raspberry Pi programming. Has nothing to do with D-Star. KD7A8.
Well, I think that's still fine. It's Raspberry Pi related or D-Star related. One of those two or combination thereof is on topic for this net. So thanks. I got a star by your name there, and I'll let you go. Hey, question for you. If somebody else wants to get a contact for the USS Midway on D-Star, okay, so I remember that day because they just happened to come around to our regular home reflector 29 Alpha, and they started talking, and just everybody jumped in and wanted to talk to them, of course. But how would we get to USS Midway if we wanted to initiate that? Or do we have to just wait around until they happen upon us? Do you know, John? Go ahead.
Well, that's a little beyond me right now, Randy. You can get onto the midway.org website, and you can look up all the different stuff that they do. And I did that, and that's how I found out that on Saturday, May the 13th, they will be having one of their event stations again. And I think that will be the same kind of deal last October. They may have had one since then. But that's when I was sitting there on 29 Alpha, and the guy was calling CQ from the USS Midway, and you know me, I jumped right in and had a nice little QSO and got the QSL information, and I got the card today. But, if you get onto their website, midway.org, you can look and see what their different schedules are. And I think, it's also on ARRL's webpage for special event stations, KD7A18.
There you go. Ooh, cool pictures on midway.org. Fighter jets on the deck. Like that. Thanks, John. Well, May 13th, so maybe just pay attention. They'll be coming around and visiting various reflectors, I would imagine. If you're there, suggest to them they go over to 29 Alpha, okay? Very good. Yeah, I got you down. We'll come back later, talk about Raspberry Pi programming. Next, we have K2ILH. That's Bill in New York. Good evening, Bill. How are you doing tonight? Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. This is K2ILH in Western New York State. It just occurred to me that I had something happen recently with my Raspberry Pi running D-Star. It's something that we touched on a few weeks ago also. The IRC-DDB Gateway app, or in my case, the Apple product. I think most of us are familiar with that app that you can control your gateway with. And my app just stopped working. There's nothing wrong with the Raspberry Pi as far as I can figure out, but I wondered if anybody else had a problem with the app or
if people have the app now and it's working for them. So it was just out of the blue. One day the app was working, and the next way it can't make a connection. So maybe somebody would like to comment on that. Back to you, this is K2ILH. Hey, you came to the right place. Very good. I bet you we could get it figured out. So before we go and throw it open, let's see, I want to ask you a couple questions just to clarify. On your Apple iPhone or iPad, when you run that app, once it's been configured, it will try to automatically connect to the IRC DDB gateway that it's been configured for. And if it can't, it gives you a little message that says can't connect or something like that. And by the way, this program is called IRD DDB Remote. And you can get that in the Google Play Store or the App Store on iPhone or iPad. Anyway, so Bill, when you try to connect, does it say just can't connect, or is there some other message you get?
AF5J.
Well, the program runs, the app runs, and it comes up okay, but then at the top of the screen, it says not connected, and or not linked, I think the term is, not linked. And if I try to link it, it says not connected. So I figure it's not able to connect with the hotspot to any of the the preset gateways that are in there. And I've been using this for now, well, more than a year, certainly, maybe a couple of years, since it first came out, and never had any trouble with it. And then, but that's the answer. It says not connected.
IP address conflict?
Oh, I think the IP address is correct. I checked that. Okay, let's see. So it's not an IP address conflict. He's got the correct one in there. Maybe let's see if we can restrict it to those who know about the iPad or iPhone use of the IRC DDB remote. And I saw AF5JH key up a second ago. Maybe he's got a clue for us. AF5JH, go ahead. AF5JH, do you have something to add in this? Go ahead. Okay, well, I don't want to tie you down. It's just that, one day it was working and the next day it wasn't. So I thought maybe there was some problem. But if nobody's had a problem like that, it must be something local. Thanks very much, K2ILH.
W7SSK.
Okay, I see W7SSK there. That's my dad in Mukilteo. W7SSK, go ahead.
I ran a comment about the remote IRDDB program. I use mine on an iPad 6, and occasionally mine will do that as well. It will not connect, and if I hit the refresh button, it will usually come back. Or at one time I had to go into the settings position and delete the IP address that's on there and re-enter it with the same number, and it came right back. But anyway, the refresh works best for me. W7SSK.
Okay. Oh, there you go, Bill. There's a suggestion for you. I guess the other thing is that in order for that little app to work, it needs to know what port to connect to. So double check that the port is open on your Raspberry Pi or your router. If you're going from outside your router's firewall, make sure there's a forwarding of the correct port. And I guess for me, I'd try to just get rid of the password anyway and re-enter the password, just thinking it might have gotten miscombobulated somehow. Anyway, so there's a couple things. Thanks for that, Bill. So that's helpful. It's always helpful, even if you don't have that problem, to know that that might be something that you'd run into someday. Very good. Let's see. We have another one. Carrie is still out there. N0WIQ. Come on ahead.
This is N0WIQ. Now, I use, what do I want to say, a portable computer, like my laptop, and then it's got an AMD processor in it. And I run Linux on it. I do not run Microsoft Windows. As a matter of fact, I don't run Microsoft Windows on any of my computers. So when I had the first Raspberry Pi hotspot built by a friend of mine, A0RX Gary, and this is the one I'm using right now, but I built another Raspberry Pi hotspot for myself. And since I don't use Microsoft Windows, I couldn't use some of the handy applications for configuring it. So I had to do a long way around, picking out pieces of information, how to set it up and all that kind of stuff. So that was a big thing. But if you use a Microsoft Windows, you can use the D-Star command or setup to set up the Raspberry Pi before you plug it into the Raspberry Pi. So anyway, that's my story, and I think I'll stick with it. People might be using a version of Linux. I don't know for sure, but if so, it might have some of the same issues. I'm not being able to run some of the College US programs, so I'll just leave it at that. This is N0WIQ.
Very good, Carrie. Yeah, that is true. In order to do the D-Star Commander configuration, it comes with a little Windows executable that runs in terminal mode that asks you the questions that it needs to in order to configure it. So you can then just take the card out and stick it in your Raspberry Pi and run headless. So no keyboard, no monitor, no mouse. But if you don't have any Windows computer, you're going to have to figure out how to just configure the two config files that you need to for the gateway and the repeater program. Well, I would just, it slows you down a bit, but sounds like if you're a Linux guy, you probably enjoy figuring that out. So let me ask you, Carrie, you said you have an AMD computer and all your computers have Linux, so what's your favorite Linux distro?
Oh, my favorite. Well, I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's the one I've been using for years. I use Fedora, Red Hat Fedora distribution of Linux most of the time. The Raspberry Pi, I've only used the Raspbian operating system. But on the other hand, pre-configuring the chip for that, just took a lot of searching and coming up with the right image to begin with, and then figuring out how to configure it. Now, since I already had this one Raspberry Pi, I could put the two Raspberry Pis on the same screen with a viewer and say, oh, I make it look like this, make it look like this, make it look like this. And then I got down to this one where it was talking about the processor, I believe, or something. It had something like 6 choices. And one had choice B, and this one, and the new one had to have a choice C kind of thing on it, and all that kind of stuff. So that's how I got it to work finally. But yeah, it was finding the right kernel in the first place that made it come close so I could do that.
Yeah, I've done that before, so that's good. You're able to figure that out. So what I've done before is if I wasn't able to use the configurator app, I was able to copy the two config files from another Raspberry Pi. So I just stuck a memory stick in one of the USB slots, and then I copied it over to that, and then I manually pulled that out, stuck it in the other Raspberry Pi, and copied it over. That's how I had to do it when I was trying to use the Compass Linux distro. The Compass Linux is the one that's maintained by the good folks at Northwest Digital Radio, and it is a ham radio specific version of Raspbian Jessie. And but unfortunately, their setups for the G4 KLX software stack doesn't have those two config files. You have to start from scratch. So I didn't want to do that, so I copied them over. Anyway, thanks, Gary. Appreciate that. Yeah. So your favorite distro is Red Hat, which of course originally started out to be a free thing, and then Red Hat transitioned to being the one favored by corporate and commercial Linux distributions. And there's another version of that. The Fedora Linux is the community freeware version. Yeah, I started off with those many years ago, and then I went to SUSE, and then I went to Debian, and so now my favorite Linux for a desktop PC is Linux Mint, which is still based on Debian. Anyway, so thanks. Let's see, that was Carrigan 0WIQ, and let's see, let's go back to John and have a question about Raspberry Pi programming. KD7AAT, what's your question, John? Let's do it now. Maybe he went to go read his QST magazine or something there. John, KD7AAT, is he still there? Should we do your question now? Okay, I think he's working on something on his barbecue. Anyway, so let's go on. I don't have any more on my list. Let's see if somebody else has a question or a subject of discussion for us. Come on ahead.
Yeah, Q, further comment?
Yeah, Carrie, go ahead.
I should have said that I used the Red Hat Fedora stand since they came out with the Fedora, because I've been using the Red Hat versions of Linux since about 1990 or the late 1990s. So when they changed over, I went through a period of panic when I saw the notation that they were going to go commercial with their regular stuff. And then they come up with the Fedora open software and just kept gradually going. And so, I mean, I have steered away from Fedora more than once and been disappointed because it took some extra learning to learn how to do it with some other version of Linux, where Fedora just wouldn't do it. I'll just put it that way. So, now you're saying you don't Linux Mint. Well, I have looked at that. I was using it for a while, and I run into something it wouldn't do without a major learning curve. So I went back to Fedora and did it anyway. So that's my story.
Yeah, I understand what you mean there. Major learning curve. You get stuck on something, and it probably is something that an experienced Linux Mint user would know what to do. But for you, since it's a little bit different, you get stuck. So, yeah, understand that. Yeah. So, anyways, I guess Linux Mint. So here's a little story, okay? So we're talking about Linux distributions, various flavors of the Linux operating system for desktop PC. When Ubuntu became popular, it was listed on one of the places that everybody goes to see what's the most popular is a place called distrowatch.com, which counts page hits for various distros, and they conclude from that what's the most popular. It used to be Ubuntu for a long time, and then Ubuntu is made by a company called Canonical, and the guy at Canonical decided he was going to get rid of the standard graphical user interface that they've been using for so long and that made them popular. And so they erased the GNOME graphical user interface. They got rid of that, and they put in their own, which they called Unity. And they're saying that Unity is more of a touchscreen-oriented user interface. So it's the future. Well, just recently, Mark Shuttleworth, the guy from Canonical, has changed his mind. He's decided that was a failure. So starting in the next major release in 2018, I believe, they're going to get rid of the Unity graphical user interface that Ubuntu has been sticking with for years. Be right back. They're going back to the GNOME interface. And I don't know. I don't think. Basically, Linux Mint is the way Ubuntu used to be. So to me, it's too late. So if you look on distrowatch.com, Linux Mint is by far the most popular, twice as much as the next one. And I think Ubuntu is like third now. So anyway, they're going to try to backpedal and scratch their way back to the top, those Ubuntu guys, but I think it's too little too late. I think Linux Mint is going to be leading the pack of the Debian-based distributions. Anyway, just a little opinion, only my own opinion. Let's see if there's anybody else out there that wants to talk about that or something else. Come on ahead.
KD7AT back after miscue.
Okay, well, we were just kind of killing time, shooting the breeze here until you got back, John. Let's talk about your Raspberry Pi programming question. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Randy. And I put the foot switch down, and then I looked at the radio, and it was still on shutdown or disconnect. So I had to reconnect and then put the CQ field back in. Anyway, the one thing I wanted to say real quick is anybody has, no one has ever done this, probably haven't. Use the Google and do a street view on the USS Midway. In the street view, they had the guy walking around with that portable street view thing on his back, apparently, and you could look at the whole ship. And I didn't go all the way down, but obviously in the reading room somewhere during that tour with Google Street View, and like I said, I'm on there, May the 13th. And I'm going there and possibly talk to the guy that I had going on the Star when they were doing this application last year. Anyway, my suggestion is trying to install a program called Uncollector, which is just setting to make your mouse cursor off of the web browser, which would be Chromium, that I'm using on my Raspberry Pi Raspbian. And it starts the Pi with Chromium in soft mode. Then you can have this little program make sure the mouse cursor is there when you're going to take the screenshots. I won't get into the reason why I'm doing all this. The problem is, even up till just a few months back, all of the links that tell you how to do the sudo app get install unclutter, it's always a bad 404. And I have tried everything that I can to work around and go someplace else's to get this little app called Unclutter into my Raspberry Pi. And I have hit a brick wall. One of the things it said was put something in your field, in your terminal, called missing files, missing directories, or something like that, and I just haven't been able to get it work. Anyway, I am recording, so I won't have to take notes, and I'll go back over this later if you or anyone else has an answer on how to find an app that the link is broken. Thanks, Randy. Katie 7AAT.
Zero WIQ with a Linux channel. What comment?
There you go. It's a Linux channel. Go ahead, Gary.
Okay, once you have Linux up and running, see if you can install the desktop called Cinnamon. And come out of the Mint people, that's the Cinnamon desktop, which you're probably already using on your thing. But anyway, I use Fedora with a Cinnamon desktop. And you can put that on just about any version of Linux. Now, if you want to put it on, it's a little bit of a heavy GUI to be putting on a Raspberry Pi, but you could actually make it work on that too. So, and it's just one of those things. I've been using Linux, and before that I was using Unix. And I've been messing around with networking since 1975. So when there's a networking question, it usually boils down to a conflict in IPs, a conflict in naming, a conflict in some sort of conflict. And the network won't work. But that's me. A network is a network is a network. That's it.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Gary. Let's see. So I'm pretty sure you can't run Cinnamon on a Raspberry Pi because Cinnamon is a very sophisticated graphical user interface that's meant for for a video card that has hardware 3D acceleration. So it doesn't work on any device that doesn't have hardware 3D accelerators. As far as I know, and Raspberry Pi has one, but it's really cheesy. So I don't think you're going to get a Cinnamon. I've never seen any Cinnamon available for Raspberry Pi. So let's go back to John there for a sec. So I've been Googling around while Gary was talking there. It says you do app-get install unclutter. And so when you do that, of course, anytime you run app-get, you have to prefix it with sudo. If you do an app-get install unclutter, what happens?
Okay, yeah, that's where I've been, Randy, a number of times, and it goes through the normal install, and then it comes up with a 404 error, could not complete the URL, or maybe the directory, or whatever. I've been through a number of different places on the internet to install this Unclutter program app, I guess it would be. And every time I've done that, it always comes up. I think the distro, for whatever the link is gone. And even just some months, only 6 months, people were talking about, yeah, installing it. It works great with the switches, so on and so forth. But it seems like it might have dropped off of one of the servers of the distro that it was in, or however. There is a workaround that I can do something in Chromium, so when it starts, go into some of the files, the config files, and do the same thing to tell it not show the mouse cursor. But with this little app, it's so much easier just to have it running alongside everything else. But I was just wondering if there's any way to work around when there should be a connection somehow to install this app, where it always says that the 404 error thing, because it can't come up with the. Shouldn't there be another place to find that one particular app, just not on the links that everybody, or even going through installs through? Yeah, I'm using Raspbian on the Pi, so yeah, we all know what that is. KD7A18.
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing lots of other people on the net having trouble trying to get that one going too. So, well, I don't have any other idea. So, the real reason you're asking is that you want to make an image capture of your screen with no mouse cursor. So, anybody have a suggestion for John how he might be able to do a screen capture and not have the mouse be there? I guess if you move the mouse all the way to the lower right-hand corner, all you'll see is one pixel of it. So, or maybe even none. Anybody have a suggestion for John that would disappear his mouse cursor so he could do a screen capture? Come on ahead.
M0 WIQ and that issue.
There we go. We're having a Linux learning session from Carrie. Go ahead.
On my Fedora Linux and even the Cinnamon desktop.
In.
Pops up a window that says, do you want to see this? Do you want to see this? Do you want to see this? You say, no, no, no. Bring up the screen capture, take the screen image, store it in a file someplace, and it won't have whatever you don't want to see. That is on my desktops. And I don't know about the Raspberry Pi situation, but I've never tried to take a screenshot with Raspberry Pi, so don't know anything about that.
All right, there we go. So the Cinnamon GUI desktop has a feature that does that, but yeah, that doesn't help out John. He's trying to do this on his Raspberry Pi, and there's no Cinnamon for a Raspberry Pi. So anybody else have a suggestion? Otherwise, I think it's going to be a strikeout. Come on ahead.
WIQ again.
Doing is having the Raspberry Pi running Chromium in kiosk mode and taking a snapshot of the video that is running from a web camera. And it has to be, it's headless, wireless, and everything else to do with it. And yeah, it's just the idea of making sure the cursor's not there. And this is running off of cron tabs and everything else. So yeah, I'll get it worked out. There are some ways to go into Chromium, into the configuration files, and tell it not to have the mouse cursor. But yeah, I can work around it. I'm just was hoping that maybe somebody had an idea on how to get an app off of a distro that, for whatever reasons, the URL, there's got to be another place to find it. But that's all right, Randy. Hey, thanks for taking the time. I do appreciate it. W4LKS, Katie 7880.
Okay, well, good luck with that. Kerry was in there, had one more thing to add. Go ahead, N0 WIQ, yeah.
As I said before, I had more information enough that I could have both Raspberry Pis on the screen, but if you have one Raspberry Pi on the screen through it with a remote login, you might try to take your screenshot with your desktop and see what happens, because you might have more options with the desktop. That was my comment.
Okay, very good. Got it. Could remote log in and do a screen capture that way. I think he's trying to do it all automated with cron jobs, and it's headless, and so it sounds like something special that John's cooking up there. So anyway, let's see. It's now a little bit after 8, and let's see if there's anybody out there who just wants to come in and say howdy. Let's do our just regular check-ins portion of the show. Come on ahead.
K2AMF, Neil. I've been listening.
K7MTB.
Okay, I got 2 there. I got K2AMF, that's Neil in Spokane. I got K7MTB Dave in Missoula. Neil, when you keyed up, you had the I in your call field, so probably need to switch that back to CQ. Let's let you do that, and let's go first to Dave in Missoula, the K7MTD. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing well, Randy. Were you talking about me with the hi in the comment line?
No, it was Neil, K2AMF. When he keyed up, he had an I in his your call field. And while that allows his voice to come across, it causes the repeater he's talking in to come back with additional stuff. So Yep, always needs to be in CQ. CQ. That's the way you're doing it. You're good, so go ahead there, Dave.
So you had me worried there for a minute. I haven't been on this net for a few weeks. I'm glad to be back. Always nice to hear the local voices. So, good evening to you, Randy, and everybody on the net. We'll speak again soon. K7MTD.
Thanks, Dave. Got you down on the list. Appreciate it. Let's go next to Neil, K2AMF. Good evening, Neil. How's it going with you?
Oh, man. I know very, very little about D-Star, really, except that's the one thing I do know about the CQ business. And I usually get into the CQ and then I lock the keyboard, or, key panels when it doesn't happen. But in that case, I went to pick up the mic and I accidentally spun the little dial a little bit because I didn't have it locked. So, whatever. Hey, well, I celebrated my birthday today. I added another candle to the cake. That thing is calls the fire department if you ever to get them all lit up. But we're doing good, and I always enjoy listening to you guys talk about D-Stars and the computer, the Linux and stuff. I just find it very, very enjoyable to listen to. And then I think and I'm going to tell you again every week till it happens, I'm studying very hard to get my general, and I'll be testing in May 5th. So until I get that under my belt, you'll hear it every week that I'm still working on it. K2AMF.
Well, Neil, I do that too. So it seems to happen pretty easily that you touch that knob and it bumps it and takes you to a different place. And so what I do is on my 51, I keep the highlight in the 2 field. Is that right? Yeah. No, the from field. And that way, if I accidentally bump it, it changes the frequency, and then it doesn't transmit weird control messages to the repeater. Although I don't really say that's the best way to do it in the world, but it seems to work for me. Anyway, great hearing from you, and best of luck on your studying for the test. When I went to study and I took the test to get my general, which I am still now. I went with a really great guy that was a good friend, Larry, and Larry's kind of an older guy, and you would think that he was, distracted and he lived a long life, and he's still alive. He's still out there, but is not on ham radio anymore. Anyway, he got a perfect score, and I could not believe that. But anyway, he seemed to think it was nothing. I guess he must have practiced that over and over again, taking the practice exams. I just barely made it, and his was perfect, so I was just flabbergasted. Let's see if there's anybody else who wants to check in tonight. Come on ahead now.
W7SSK.
KI7JD.
KI7JB. KC9SIO.
Okay, I got 3 there. W7SSK, KF7JD, that's Martin, KC9SIO, that's Steve, and I thought I saw a double in there. Did I miss somebody? Come on back, try it again.
89GDT.
KB9GBT.
Okay, there we go. Thanks. KD9GBT, that's John in Champaign-Urbana area. Yeah, W9YR. Pretty good. Let's start with W7SSK. Come on ahead.
Oh, hi, Ren. I just wanted to make an official counter here for you. Also wanted to tell you that using your suggested procedure, I repaired the audio on my ID51. I had a broken wire on the speaker. For whatever reason, it didn't use the spring contacts. It had hardwire, and one of the wires broke. So we'll say good evening to the net and everybody listening, and we'll get you next week. W7SSK, back to Randy at W4LKS.
It's General in 0WIQ.
All right, and 0WIQ was there. Stand by just a sec. Yeah, that, I was suggesting that he could open up his ID51, his original version ID51, because the speaker stopped working. And yeah, so I did that a long time ago when I first got mine, and I did the Mars Cap mod to it. And then as I was trying to pry the case apart, I forgot to take out the micro SD card, and so then after that, the micro SD card socket wouldn't work anymore because apparently I bent it or something. And micro SD card that was in there was fine, but the socket wouldn't work anymore, so I couldn't save or anything to the micro SD card on my old ID51. So yeah, I always say, if you're going to try to open up your ID51, be sure to take the card out first, otherwise it won't work. Yeah, cool. I'm glad you got the speaker working. Carrie, did you have something to add to that? Let's go to N0WIQ.
This is N0WIQ. And anyway, about Linux in general. There's, among all the distributions of Linux, Linux is Linux to a significant amount. Not absolutely, but to a significant amount. So I haven't had any trouble going from one Linux to another to make things work. It's just a matter of certain things that didn't work because a lot of learning curve away from the Fedora system that I'm used to using.
Okay, understood. Yep, there's slight differences in the various distros based on what kind of graphical user interface it has and what libraries are available. Yep. See, I thought you were going to say you're not supposed to call it Linux. It's supposed to be GNU/Linux, as the GNU guy would have you insist you say it. He won't even talk to you unless you say it like that. Anyway, it's still Linux to me. Thanks for that, Kerry. Let's go. We got some more here. We got Martin, KI7JD. Go ahead.
Hey, good evening, Randy. Nothing to report here. Just waiting for my ID51 to come back from ICOM. I have to send it in to have the submersible seals on both sides of the handheld replaced there because they were, after program yesterday, were bubbling up and not seating correctly. So I decided to take that in there. I guess other people I've talked to have that same problem. At least one gentleman I talked to in Germany had that happen to him. So I had to get that into the shop, but I still have the ID31 here, which I used this weekend, and it seemed to work quite well there. So another foggy, wet day over here on the west side, and just waiting for that radio to come back there so I can... hopefully I made a mistake of forgetting to take the SD card out, though. If not, I'm going to have to burn myself another image. That's pretty much it. KI7JD.
Always great to hear from you, Martin. Thanks for dropping by. Yeah, I wonder if they use a weird formulation of rubber for that thing, because it seems like I've seen a few of those get hard and they don't seal anymore. And yeah, hopefully they'll have to let us know if the new one, the replacement rubber stoppers that they put on the side of your radio there, last longer this time around. Take care, Martin. We'll talk to you later. Let's see, we got next Steve in Champaign, and he's KC9SIO. You got your radio back, huh, Steve? Go ahead.
Good evening, Randy, and everyone on the Raspberry Pi D-Star Net tonight. Yes, I did. Yeah, we had Mother and I had a little argument last week over something. Well, I accidentally interrupted her prayer time without meaning to. I try to be as quiet as a mouse, but sometimes it does. Last Monday it did. So she took my radio away from me for the day. But I got it back the next day. Well, anyway, enough of that. Yeah, as far as the rubber stops here, yeah, mine, let's see, the one that was on the right side covering up all the ports on the right side is gone. And the one covering up the SD card on the left side, it's not gone, but, I can't close it. So, yeah, I've been looking for a solution for that, too. So any advice there would be appreciated. But other than that, let's see. I've been hearing the net the whole time. A lot of good information passed around. So a lot of good information passed around. And I'm wondering if John, KD7AAT, ever got his surveillance system set up yet for his chickens, but I'll get with him later, maybe on 29 Alpha sometime. Anyway, that's about all I have right now, Randy. If nobody else is, I don't think Connie's been on here yet. Let me reset more to follow. Okay, I don't think Connie's been on here yet, so just let me say I'd like to invite everyone on here to come over to 1 Charlie on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time for the International D-Star Net. As the majority of you know, that's the oldest and longest running net on D-Star. See, Connie had 115 check-ins last night, so yeah, it's growing slowly but surely. Yeah, I think she missed a few because of what was going on 1 Charlie last night. But it was still a pretty good number. Anyway, other than that, Randy, I don't have too much else, so I'll just turn back over to you. Everybody have a great week, and I'll catch all of you next week if I don't catch you anytime sooner, though I'm sure I will. I'm sure, Randy, I'll catch you and your dad Saturday night on Saturday Night D-Star Net. Anyway, so I'll just turn it back over to you at W4LKS and the Raspberry Pi D-Star Net from KC9SIO 73 all the way around.
Well, very good, Steve. Thanks for that. Appreciate that. All those announcements, and 115. Wow. And she's so courteous and engaging to each person, and so I don't think I would have the patience for that, but I admire her for doing that, that's for sure. Let's see, maybe she's out there. KB0ZSG, are you there? If so, come on in. Yeah, she's probably resting her voice after being courteous and engaging to all those people last night. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate that. Got John also in the same area there from the Champaign or Urbana area coming in on the W9YR. That's what it says on my screen here. KD9GBT. Come on in, John.
Good evening, Randy, and everyone listening tonight. Yeah, very interesting net, as always. Thanks for running the show. Speaking of the seals, mine are going too on my ID51A+, particularly the one that covers the SD card slot. I think it has to do with the sweat of your palm or something changing the properties of the rubber, but would love to find a replacement set. Anyway, 73 to all. I'll send it back to Net Control. This is KD9GBT.
Yeah, it must be something in your sweat or the oils from your skin or something. The one on I have two 51s. I have the older, I got the 51 that when it originally came out, like the first week or so. And the SD card rubber cover is kind of bowing out and it doesn't look like it's sealing. But at least it stays shut. The one that covers up the mic and the speaker ports, that's the one that you use normally if you plug in a speaker mic. I didn't like using, I like to use my speaker mic and I didn't like that little piece of rubber flapping around, so I just cut that off and threw it away a long time ago. So there goes my waterproofing. And the other one on that older 51, the part that covers the charge cable and all that stuff. So since I have a charging cradle, I don't pop that off very often. So it doesn't, it's still hanging in there, although it looks kind of dried up and it's, you know, rubber's supposed to be matte. It's not supposed to be shiny, and it looks all shiny like it's going to do something. Anyway, thanks a lot for there, John, and see if there's anybody else who wants to check in. Come on ahead.
KK6LDW.
Got KK6LDW, and it looks like it's JR in California. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the check-in. I'm new to D-Star, so I've been listening more than talking, but I did hear you at the beginning of the net. You were talking about the WX3-in-1. I've been trying to set up an iGate here. I'm in Belt Canyon, and we're kind of shadowed by mountains everywhere, so the coverage is not very good. And I want to know how the 3-in-1 works out for you next week. And you said that you had tried some other options in the past with like digipeters without success. I'm currently using Pi with the SDR dongle and the Direwolf software, and it's pretty stable and pretty cheap. I already have the antenna, and I was just curious what you had tried before the 3-in-1.
Oh, thanks for asking. Yeah. So I have this setup in my shack here, and so I first started using the APRS32. That's Windows software, which worked fabulously. It was a great iGate and digipeater, except it's Windows. I didn't want a big Windows program running on this computer all the time. And it's map-based, so it wants to be a graphical program that's showing you a map and where all these stations are on the map. And I don't want that. I just want a simple little thing running in the background that's a digipeater and iGate. So that was overkill. Then I tried, just like you did, Direwolf and Exaster, and I couldn't figure DynaWolf out, and Exaster is similar to the APRS32 program, except it's Linux and it's a map-based program, and it was just too much. I just wanted a simple little service running in the background of my Raspberry Pi that was acting as an iGate and Digipeater. So then I tried using a program called APRX, which seemed to be just what I was looking for. It's a very simple little service that runs in the background, and it didn't tax the processing power of the Raspberry Pi. I'll be right back. But APRX on Raspberry Pi, I found, was not reliable. So after a while, it would stop reporting to the APRS IS network, and then it would also stop transmitting packets over RF, and it didn't say why. I looked and I tried to figure it out, and also it wouldn't start up and run reliably. So I had to, every time I started it, even whether it's a background service or whether I tried to run it in the foreground, you had to watch it very carefully to make sure it's initialized properly, and oftentimes it wouldn't. So I gave up on the APRX software for the Raspberry Pi. Not reliable. So the next one is going to be this WX 3-in-1 Plus 2.0, which just arrived today. And I thought maybe after the net here I would try to configure it. And I'm looking at all the various comments and stuff out there. It looks like everybody really likes this, and so it should be reliable. Yeah, and so I'm probably doing something similar like what you're thinking about. Is in our vicinity here, we do have a Digipeater that's high up on a mountain that has really good coverage of the whole area around here. I have an iGate. It just simply digipeats all the packets that it hears on the APRS frequency. So there needs to be another nearby iGate, and that's what I'm providing. So, yeah, sounds like maybe, JR, what you need there is another Digipeater way up high on a mountain that can echo those packets and get them far and wide. What do you think there? Go ahead, JR.
Yeah, there's parts of the neighborhood here that get I can't remember which one it is, like WSCO, something or other like that. But, as far as getting signals out via APRS from this canyon is impossible. So at least the iGate I set up is accomplishing that. The DynaWolf and the RTL SDR dongle wasn't too complex, and I have another unit that I'm using for ADSB. I don't know if you guys have ever gotten into that, but that's another fun Pi setup. You set it up and feed all the flight tracking services, and you can just kind of track all the planes in your area. But FlightAware makes a SDR dongle that has an amplifier built into it, so I added that to the iGate instead of the standard, and it increased the sensitivity quite a bit. So at least that's working out. Let me reset here. But yeah, I had some of the similar issues that you had with some of those setups. And I gave up on the Digipeater for now. I was at Ham Radio Outlet in Burbank, and they did not have the WX 3-in-1 in stock. But if you end up having a positive experience with that, I'll probably pull the trigger. So I'll be listening. KK6LDW.
Okay, yeah, I'll try to remember to come back here next week and let you know how it goes. And what I've found is it's in doing all these things, you get it set up and you got to leave it running. And in my case, in my opinion anyway, it needs to run for a couple of weeks before you know it's trustworthy or not. Because like I say, the APRX, it would run for a day or two, and then after a while, it would just kind of stop. And I'd look for the first couple days, and I'd see how I'm iGating all these various stations all around town, and then a couple days later, it's no longer doing that. So, what happened? I don't know. So, not trustworthy. That's what I concluded. Yeah. Okay, JR, very good. Well, have a good evening, and I'll let you know how it goes with the WX3-in-1 Plus 2 down the road a little bit. Once I've had a chance to plug it in, turn it on, and see if it's trustworthy or not. Very good. All right, so let's. We're getting close to an hour and a half, which is usually a little bit longer than we usually go, but I always go over. Anyway, so let's see if there's anybody else out there that wants to check in tonight before we close it down. That'll be the time. Come on ahead.
W6CJX.
W6CJX. Go ahead.
Yeah, I heard many comments out there about the little rubber pieces on the sides of the 51 and the 31. I had one of the original, or I have one of the original ID51, similar to what you have, before they went to the Plus and the 2 and whatever else is out there. Anniversaries and all the other good stuff. Anyway, I got the old one. Mine did the same thing. Everything swelled up. I wrote to ICOM tech support. Never even talked to them on the phone, I believe. And they wrote me back and said, no problem. It's $10 and blah, blah cents, and we'll send you a set. Includes shipping, I think, or whatever. And so I said, okay, great. And went ahead and purchased them. They sent the little rubber pieces to me. And I watched a couple of YouTube videos on replacing them. And fortunately, let me just put a word of caution. On the YouTube video, the guy that takes it away, I think it's KMLA or KM6LA or something like that, or K6LA, does this video on it. Well, he doesn't have a wire going to his speaker, and I did. So when I took off the back of it, I did take out my SD card, because he did mention that, and I split the case and took it out. Let me reset. When I split the case, I didn't realize that there was a wire attached to the speaker, which I didn't break, luckily, but just, like I said, caution to those that might try it. But it was actually one of the easiest things I've ever replaced. I know Martin sent his in. A lot of people are reluctant to split the case. Not really that hard, but I would suggest watching the YouTube video. There's a couple of good points on it, on taking your volume and your tuner knob off. They just pull directly off, and then you have to unscrew that nut on top of your antenna. And it does sound like a lot, but if you are, pretty good with tools and things, it's not hard to do. And the new ones, when they come in, they have this really long piece of rubber that you basically pull it through the hole, and it pops into place, and then you just cut it off with a pair of wire cutters. So anyway, that's what I did. It's not that expensive. I think it was around $10, including shipping. And they ship it to you in a couple of days from ICOM. So you might, whoever needs that, might check into it, and they've worked great since. And I think it is the oils, he said, from your hands that actually cause it to swell, the type of rubber. I think they changed the type of rubber now. I believe that they're not still doing that, but you never know. Back to you, Randy. Thanks. I just thought I'd throw that in there. W6BJ.
Well, thank you for that, Bob. Appreciate that. Thanks for sticking around and telling us about that, because that's good to know. Because I probably might do that. Yeah, very cool. So that YouTube video, hopefully that's not the one where, that sounds like a different one. The one that I watched that showed how to open up the 51 so that you could do the Mars cap mod to it. The guy puts the radio in his mouth and uses his teeth to pull the little knobs off. And I'm going, wow, no, don't do that. You're going to put tooth marks on the knobs. Or break a tooth or something, but I think it's easy enough to get off with if you just have some rubber gloves or something. My fingers are too slippery. Yeah, you're right. It's not hard to get open. Anyway, appreciate that, Bob. All right, well, let's call it a night. What do you say? And I want to say thanks to everybody who checked in tonight. How many do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, about 17 check-ins or so tonight. So thanks to everybody for joining the Raspberry Pi D-Star Net on 38 Charlie. And we'll be back here next Monday. And it'll be somebody else doing it. It'll be my turn again, first Monday of the month. And so everybody have a terrific evening, and thanks for joining us tonight. It's W4LKS closing the net at 8:35 Pacific time. 7-3, everybody. Good night.
KC9SIO.
And if you're still listening, this is N0WIQ, and I want to apologize for taking so much net time. I'm in my 7th decade, and I have a lot of experience about a lot of different things.
Okay, it's Randy.